Hi, welcome to Punj Yoga channel. And in this video today, I'm going to talk about what is yoga. Okay. So first thing first, the word yoga that we all are familiar with, the real word actually is yoga in Sanskrit. Just but for the ease of our discussion today, I'm going to say yoga. Okay. And before we know what yoga is, we must know what yoga is not. Okay. So just to be clear, yoga is not a religion, first of all. Second, it is not a magic, not a mystery. It's a pure science. And to practice yoga, you don't have to leave the world. You can still function in the world like everybody else, but you can be a yogi or you can start practicing yoga. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Now, coming back to what yoga really is. If you Google yoga, what is yoga? You'll get multiple definition. But the most prominent definition, and that's the definition I'm going to use to explain more, is union. Uh, Yoga is a union. Yoga. Actually, the word yoga came from yuj. Yuj means union. So union of what? What we are trying to unite with, right? So it's a union of individual consciousness with universal consciousness. So the consciousness that is functioning within you is called individual consciousness, right? And yoga is kind of union between these two. So why we are talking about individual and universal? Consciousness is just one, right? Why are we talking about two different things here, right? So it's just that we do not have that realization that we are all one. I'm one with everything else. Okay, so that's, we must understand this, right? Individual consciousness and universal consciousness. Yoga is kind of union. So union doesn't mean that you are trying to unite something. They're two different things and trying to unite something. Actually, it is just one plain consciousness. The part of consciousness functioning within me is called individual. And we do not have the realization, right, that we are one with everything else. To how to get that realization is yoga. Once you are realized, then you are a yogi, right? So how to get that realization? That's the $1 billion questions, right? We are in this life functioning. We were born, we're gonna die, but most of us do not know who you really are. What is your true self, right? So yoga is a way to kind of know. It will help you realize that, make you a step closer to your true self. Okay, so that's what yoga is. It's kind of realization. Now how that realization happens, right? Just asanas or just the pranayam, you do and you'll be realized? No. In fact, um, our ancient texts and all, they have given you multiple paths of this realization, right? And it depends, what path you like, what kind of person you are. There's a path for you, right? This is one destination. There can be a multiple path. So paths, like if say you believe in God, right? If you believe in God, there's a path called bhakti yoga, where you don't have to do asanas and pranayam and all that. You just complete surrender to God. If you have that ability to do a complete surrender to God, you can be a yogi. That's called bhakti yoga. And there are very good example of Mirabai, example of Paramhans Krishna. They were yogis, by bhakti yoga. They practice bhakti yoga. Now you are kind of person where you don't believe in God. You're kind of atheist. You say, no, there's no logic. I don't believe in God. Nobody has seen God. So how you want me to believe God? Then there is a path called Jnana Yoga. It's a wisdom, study. So there's a lot of, detailed discussion and text and Upanishad and Vedas that you have to learn and understand, and eventually you will be realized after reading all that and trying to and understand everything, And Jnana Yoga has given you three different methods to how to learn. I mean, how to learn is actually also is a method, right? So they talk about three different methods to learn. First is Sravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. Sravanam means you listen to some sage or some realized soul talking. You read the book, and then you mananam. Mananam means you think about it, right? Go home, you read, go home, and kind of think about it, just keep doing over and over again. there are more questions, you go back, read it again, so keep doing this cycle until you understand the concept. Then you do nididhyastam, that means you contemplate on it, then you meditate on it. So this process you continue and continue, eventually you will be a realized soul, right? So if you believe in God, bhakti yoga. If you don't believe in God, you have like this jnana yoga. And then say you can do these two, then go the third path, which is called karma yoga, selfless action. You just devote your life for some good work. And there are people, example of that, like Mother Teresa, Gandhi, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. They're all people in this world who has given this entire life, right, for others without expecting anything in return. So if you are that kind of person, again, you can be a yogi, right? So that is third path. It's called karma yoga. Now you also cannot do that. Say bhakti yoga is not for you. You cannot do karma yoga or jnana yoga. Then there's one more path called Raja Yoga. Raj Yoga is when you can control your body and mind, you know and that's what that kind of yoga is quite popular in recent times. It's called Raja Yoga, and that's where Patanjali Yoga Sutras comes into the play too. When you can control your body and mind to go beyond the mind, you can get realization only if you go beyond the mind, but you have to use your mind to go beyond the mind. So, and Patanjali gave you, like, different methods, to go beyond the mind and what to do all that. So it is called 8 limbs of yoga. So Patanjali said, okay, there are 8 limbs of yoga. You follow that and eventually you will be a realized soul. So what are those 8 limbs? So start with the yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. These are the 8 limbs of yoga. Okay. If you look at the 8 limbs, right? The first is the yama. Yama means social. You are living in a society, right? You have to follow all social norms. Like you don't have to steal, you don't have to lie, you believe in non-violence, all those things. And then niyam, when you have to pure, you have to make your body pure by different kriyas to clean your detoxify your entire body. Then there are other things, like you have to be like self-study and all that. So that's a niyam. So yama, niyam. Then comes asana. So you see, asana is just 3 from the bottom, right? So asana is where you have to make your body very strong, okay, very strong and flexible. And then comes pranayam, when you can control your mind using your breath, right? So asana and pranayam, asana controls your body, pranayam controls your mind, right? Once these 4 are kind in your control, like you did this yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, then last 4 is all about meditation. Then you start meditating, right? If your body and mind is not quiet, you cannot meditate, right? You cannot sit like that if your body is not strong enough, right? And if your mind is kind of wandering everywhere, how can you meditate? So first you have to get a mastery of your body and mind. Then you get into the last 4, which is pratyahara, which is a technique to how to withdraw your senses, how to control your senses. And then you go to dharana, which is concentration, then dhyana and samadhi, which is the end goal of the realization, right? So again, you see in Raja Yoga also there are 8 limbs defined, and asana is just third from the bottom. So that's how important asana is in the whole concept of yoga, right? So if you think of it, the whole yoga is a way to get a realization, and that realization, there are multiple paths. 3 path has nothing to do with asana and pranayams, all like bhakti and karma and all those jnana yoga. In the 4th path, it talks about 8 limbs, and out of the 8 limbs, asana is third from the bottom. So that's how much important asana is. But it is very important. Unless you control your body and mind, you cannot go beyond. Okay, so since we all kind of relate ourselves mostly with body and mind, the asanas and pranayam are very, very important. Okay, So that's it. That's what yoga is. Yoga. So in the summary, I like to say yoga is just is a realization that you are not this body and mind, but to know, to go beyond your mind, you need the mind. So you have to have a better control of your body and mind. Then only you can go beyond the mind, and that's where asana and pranayama comes into the picture. Okay, so that's it in this video, and I'll see you in my next. Thank you.